까쿠, 얼른들 가요.
The movie opens on a quiet night beside a pond, where a young couple is enjoying a fishing trip. The two are about to get cozy when the music suddenly stops. Hearing this, Ayun decides to head back toward the car to check what happened and grab some beer. As she walks over, she suddenly feels something coming from the pond. She turns and stares at the water as if hypnotized. She slowly starts walking toward it. Her boyfriend notices and immediately tells her to stop, but she doesn't respond. He runs over and asks what she's doing. Just then, he hears a voice behind him. When he turns around, he is shocked to see Ayun standing near the car, asking why he's in the water. The boy immediately tenses up. Slowly looking down at the pond, he sees a figure rising from beneath the surface. Before he can react, the mysterious figure grabs him and drags him into the water. Later, at a studio, we meet Han Soo-in. She suddenly wakes up in fear after hearing someone whisper her name. A short while later, she receives a call from director asking her to come at meeting. At the office, director Jong-hwan is discussing a strange image that needs to be removed. The image shows a woman standing in the water and has been causing concern among local authorities after appearing on a map service. The team explains that they have GPS records for all the surrounding roads, but not for the location where the image was taken. This means someone uploaded a photo from a place that should never have been photographed in the first place. Soo-in arrives and quietly stares at the image. One of the employees mentions that team leader Woo Gyo-sik had previously gone there and returned safely. However, Jong-hwan reveals that Gyo-sik has not answered any of his calls since taking sick leave. The meeting continues, and Jong-hwan asks for someone to visit the location and update the image before nightfall. Nobody volunteers. Since the task belongs to her department, Soo-in decides to handle it herself. Outside the building, she sends Gyo-sik a message asking him to contact her. While she's waiting, Yoon Jae-tae approaches her and asks why she's worrying so much when Gyo-sik is only on sick leave. Soo-in says he isn't the type of person to suddenly disappear without telling anyone. A company vehicle arrives for her. Before she leaves, Jae-tae stops her and asks why she's planning to visit the reservoir alone when there are other team leaders available. Soo-in explains that Gyo-sik went there before becoming unreachable, so she wants to check the place herself. Jae-tae reminds her that she can't even go near water comfortably and asks what she plans to do once she gets there. Soo-in coldly replies that he was the one who wanted them to act like strangers, so he shouldn't concern himself with her anymore. Outside, a junior employee named Songbin helps Soo-in load her luggage. He also introduces her to Sejong, a new member from Team 1. Sejong excitedly says that Songbin told her they might see a ghost today. Songbin quickly denies ever saying that. Soo-in thanks both of them for giving up their day off to come along. Meanwhile, two road crew workers, Gyan-tae and his younger brother Hyung-jun, have also joined the trip to earn some extra money. As they drive toward the reservoir, Sejong asks Hyung-jun if he's ever seen the so-called flesh-eating ghost. Hyung-jun says he hasn't seen it himself, but has heard plenty of stories about it. Songbin adds that two more people recently went missing in the area. He then shares another rumor. According to local stories, there used to be a cemetery where the reservoir now stands. As the others casually talk about ghosts and disappearances, Soo-in sits quietly, looking increasingly uneasy. Sejong continues, saying the area is famous for strange encounters with the dead. According to one legend, the name Salmokji comes from spirits crossing over into the world of the living. Curious, Songbin asks Soo-in whether she believes in ghosts. She says she only believes in things she can see with her own eyes. After a long drive, they finally arrive at the location. The moment Soo-in sees the reservoir, her expression noticeably changes. While reversing the vehicle, they suddenly hit something. Everyone gets out to check and discovers a small stone tower. On top of it sits a bowl and a knife. As they move the vehicle, some of the stones fall, causing the bowl and knife to fall to the ground. Just then, an elderly woman appears and immediately warns them not to touch it. Soo-in quickly apologizes, but the woman tells them they almost drowned. The strange comment catches everyone off guard. Then the woman looks directly at Soo-in and says she's searching for someone. The old woman picks up a stone and quietly stands facing her. After a brief moment, Soo-in tells the others to rebuild the tower exactly as it was. As they prepare to stack the stones back, the woman tells them they must make a wish first. One by one, everyone makes a wish and places a stone onto the tower. When it's Soo-in's turn, she reaches forward to place her stone. Suddenly, she feels a hand grab her. Startled, she looks around, but nobody else seems to have noticed anything. The old woman quietly walks away, putting the strange incident behind them. Soo-in tells everyone to unpack their equipment and begin taking photos. While sorting through the supplies, she notices a box nearby and reaches for it. To her horror, a massive earthworm suddenly spills out. Only to learn that the worms belong to Gyan-tae, who brought them along for fishing. A loud noise suddenly draws her attention elsewhere. She turns and sees Songbin and Sejong preparing a raft. When she asks what they're doing, Sejong cheerfully explains that she runs a horror-themed YouTube channel and wants to use the trip as content. She adds that since she came all the way out here on her day off without any extra pay, she might as well make the most of it. Soo-in becomes annoyed and walks away. A moment later, she slams her hand on the car horn, getting everyone's attention. She firmly reminds them that they came here to work, not to have fun. Once the job is finished, they can do whatever they want. After that, she heads toward one of the nearby roads with Gyan-tae to begin surveying the area. Hyungjun radios in and reports that he's unable to receive any GPS signal from that section of the road. They decide to head back and check the equipment. Suin tries to fix the signal herself, but every attempt results in an error. Then, Gyo-sik has suddenly appeared. He tells her not to waste her time because the equipment won't work. Sejong looks confused and asks whether Gyo-sik was even supposed to be there. Songbin immediately replies that he wasn't. Gyo-sik calmly takes the equipment into the water, and almost immediately the GPS signal returns. Seeing this, Suin asks where he's been and why he never contacted anyone. She admits she was worried after he suddenly disappeared. Instead of answering, Gyo-sik coldly tells her to focus on the job. His unusually harsh tone catches her completely off guard. Meanwhile, Songbin and Sejong head off to a different area to take photos. As they walk around, Songbin starts taking pictures of Sejong as well. Songbin secretly sets up a camera, planning to scare Sejong for fun. However, while he scares her, the camera's motion sensor detects something approaching them. Elsewhere, Gyan-tae begins surveying the road with a camera attached to him, while Suin monitors everything remotely through a live 360-degree feed. As she watches the footage, she notices what appears to be a figure beside Gyan-tae. She tells him to walk back so she can check again. When he retraces his steps, the figure is gone. Gyan-tae starts walking again. The moment he does, the figure appears beside him once more. Watching the live feed, Suin becomes increasingly disturbed. She asks Gyan-tae to check if there's anyone near him. He looks around several times but sees absolutely nobody. Frustrated, he tells her to come check for herself if she doesn't believe him. Suin urgently tells him to leave the area, but he ignores her warning and keeps moving forward. A short distance later, Gyan-tae suddenly feels like someone is nearby. He hears a sound coming from the water and walks over to investigate. Peering into the reservoir, he sees nothing unusual. But when he turns away, his shadow remains behind. Gyan-tae checks the water again. At the same moment, Suin changes the camera angle. To her horror, she sees a man approaching behind Gyan-tae. The figure looks exactly like him. Gyan-tae immediately turns around but finds nobody there. Then his radio begins malfunctioning. Suddenly, a severed head falls onto him. Terrified, he stumbles back and screams. Suin immediately rushes toward his location, with Hyungjun following close behind. They repeatedly call out for Gyan-tae. Suin notices something floating in the water and carefully moves closer to inspect it. The moment she steps into the shallow water, the strange hair-like object suddenly disappears. She jumps when Hyungjun touches her from behind. She quickly asks whether he saw anything. Hyungjun says there's nothing there. Just then, Gyan-tae suddenly rushes out of the water in complete panic. Hyungjun notices some hair floating nearby and picks it up. Gyan-tae immediately tells him to throw it away. Instead, Hyungjun laughs it off. As he lifts it, a bowl falls out from inside the tangled hair. Later, Gyan-tae insists that he really saw a severed head. Unfortunately, nobody believes him. While Suin reviews the strange hair captured in the footage, Sejong comments that it resembles part of a shaman ritual used to guide trapped souls out of the water. Suin calls the director and says they'll stop for the day and return tomorrow. He reminds her that the locals are extremely sensitive about the location where the mysterious image was taken and insists the work be completed as soon as possible. Realizing she has no choice, Suin asks him to send additional equipment immediately. After the call ends, Gyae-tae asks the director what Suin said. Back at the reservoir, Suin gathers everyone and announces that they'll head to the city center and continue shooting at sunrise. Gyan-tae immediately refuses, saying he won't stay there, even if they are paid double. With no other option, Suin personally asks for his help. He reluctantly agrees. Before they leave, Gyo-sik suddenly says they should go back and look for a controller that Gyan-tae accidentally dropped earlier. Suin suggests finding it tomorrow instead. But Gyo-sik insists they search for it right away. Hyungjun volunteers to go, Gyan-tae and the others decide to join him as well. Just then, Suin receives a call from Gyae-tae. He tells her that he's on his way with the equipment they requested. Suin informs him that Gyo-sik is here as well. Shocking Gyae-tae. However, she admits that something feels off about him. Ever since he arrived, he's been unusually quiet and doesn't seem like himself. Meanwhile, the team heads out to search for the missing controller. They spend some time looking around the water's edge but fail to find any trace of it. Nearby, Sejong and Songbin examine the exact location where the mysterious image was taken. At the same time, Suin once again asks Gyo-sik if something happened to him during his previous visit. Instead of answering, he asks her whether she built a stone tower earlier. Suin says that she did. Gyo-sik calmly replies that his wish came true. His response immediately catches her off guard. A moment later, he suddenly turns to Gyan-tae and suggests they search another area together. Without thinking much about it, Gyan-tae follows him. Watching them leave, Suin can't shake the uneasy feeling. As night falls, the team remains near the reservoir. Sejong continues filming content for her horror channel and sets up a motion detector to capture anything unusual. Nearby, the others pass the time by throwing stones into the water. After a while, Songbin points out that Gyo-sik has been gone for quite some time. Meanwhile, Suin, who is standing near the shoreline, hears a strange sound coming from the darkness. Curious, she slowly follows it. While searching the area, she unexpectedly comes across a memory card belonging to Team 3. She quickly asks Sejong to check its contents. The footage reveals Gyo-sik standing beside a different stone tower during his previous visit. Suin receives another call from Gi Tai. He asks whether she's still with Gyo-sik. Suin explains that Gyo-sik left earlier to search for the missing controller. The moment Gi Tai hears this, he tells her to listen carefully. According to hospital records, Gyo-sik died the previous night. Suin freezes in shock. Before she can ask anything else, the call suddenly cuts off. Gi Tai immediately tries calling back, but none of his calls connect. Elsewhere, Songbin and Hyungjun continue tossing stones into the water. When Hyungjun throws one, they hear the splash, but it just keeps continue to splash continuously. Both men slowly stare at the water. Something suddenly flies toward them and smashes their light source. Hyungjun checks the light, and it turns out to be nothing more than a bird. Suddenly they begin hearing noises coming from a nearby bag. Sejong walks over to check and discovers it's a radio device she brought. She explains that it's often used to pick up messages from ghosts. Interested, Hyungjun encourages her to try it. Moments later, a voice comes through the radio. "Are you here?" Everyone immediately falls silent. The voice continues. "When did you arrive? How many of you are here?" Hyungjun grabs the device and asks whether the speaker is the ghost that drowned there. A female voice calmly replies, "Yes." Another message follows. "I died because of you." The atmosphere instantly becomes tense. At the same moment, Suin begins to panic after hearing a voice whisper behind her. She tells everyone that they need to find Gyan-tai immediately. Meanwhile, Gyan-tai continues following Gyo-sik through the darkness. Gyan-tai asks how much farther they need to go. Gyo-sik simply replies that they're almost there. Annoyed, Gyan-tai glances behind him. The moment he does, he realizes he's standing in the middle of the water. Confused and alarmed, he hears another sound nearby. Looking toward it, he spots a figure with long hair standing in the reservoir. Carefully, he approaches and reaches out toward it. The figure instantly disappears beneath the water. He turns around and sees a woman's severed head floating nearby. His fear quickly turns to terror as more heads begin appearing around him, silently staring in his direction. Then a ghost suddenly appears behind him and attacks. Meanwhile, as Sejong watches using the motion camera, she suddenly notices a figure standing in the distance. She points it out to Songbin. He cautiously walks toward the figure and realizes it's Gyo-sik, standing alone in the darkness. Songbin repeatedly calls out to him, but Gyo-sik doesn't respond. Sejong notices the same stone tower they saw earlier. Without saying a word, Gyo-sik places another stone on top of it. Meanwhile, Suin continues searching for Gyan-tai on her own. She keeps moving forward and eventually finds herself standing near the water. She immediately takes a step back. Just then, Hyungjun arrives. As Hyungjun sweeps his flashlight around the area, he finds Gyan-tai's body hanging on a tree, completely lifeless. Not far away, Sejong and Songbin hear Hyungjun scream. Before they can react, Gyo-sik suddenly attacks them. Terrified, both of them turn and run. They eventually cross paths with Suin and Hyungjun. Songbin frantically shouts that they need to get out of there right now. At that moment, Sejong notices Gyan-tai's body, as Hyungjun holds it. Meanwhile, Gi-tai finally arrives near the reservoir, and his GPS suddenly stops working. While trying to figure out where he is, he spots a small house nearby and heads toward it. Inside, he finds the same elderly woman from earlier, who collapses on the ground. At the same time, a bloody hand quietly pulls the door shut. The old woman tells him that her daughter fell into Salmokji. According to her, it's better to keep her daughter here than leave her in the water. She then asks why he came there in the first place. Gi-tai says he's only looking for directions. The woman immediately asks whether there are people at Salmokji. Back at the reservoir, Hyungjun carefully places his jacket over his brother's body. After a moment, he stands up and angrily asks the others whether they saw Gyo-sik building a stone tower. Suin tells him they should first contact the police immediately. But Hyungjun refuses. Consumed by anger, he says he wants to find Gyo-sik and kill him himself. Suin tries to stop him. Suin finally reveals what Gi-tai told her earlier. According to the hospital, Gyo-sik is already dead. The revelation leaves everyone stunned. Unlike Sejong and Songbin, Hyungjun struggles to believe. He can't understand why a ghost would target his brother. Before anyone can continue, they hear another strange sound, and sees Gyo-sik there. Hyungjun takes off after him. Suin and the others chase after him, desperately trying to stop him. The figure eventually comes to a stop near the water. Despite everyone's warnings, Hyungjun pushes past them and heads straight into the reservoir. As he approaches the figure, he realizes it's not Gyo-sik at all. It's a corpse. The moment he notices it, he turns and starts running back. But the body begins moving after him. Panic takes over as he struggles through the water. Suddenly, he feels something beneath him. Before he can react, he's dragged underwater. The others watch in horror as he desperately fights to stay above the surface. Then it grabs his eyes. For a brief moment, others also see a ghost behind him. Realizing they can do nothing to save him, Suin tells everyone to run. The remaining survivors sprint toward their vehicle. They quickly climb into the car and follow the GPS route out of the area. A few minutes later, they find themselves back at the exact same location. Confused, they try again. But they somehow end up at the same bridge every time. Determined to break the cycle, Suin tells them to take a different turn. Just then, a hand suddenly slams against the window. To their surprise, it's Gi-tai. Moments later, they realize the road ahead would have driven them straight into the reservoir. The group quickly gets out of the vehicle, still trying to process what just happened. Ji-tai explains that his own car stopped working nearby. He then tells them about his encounter with the old woman and the strange story she shared. In a flashback, we see Ji-tai asking the woman how her daughter managed to return. The woman explains that anyone who wants to see a deceased loved one must first build a stone tower and make a wish. Back in the present, Suin asks everyone what they wished for when they rebuilt the tower earlier. Songbin admits that he wished to become rich. Sejong says she never made a wish at all. Suin then reveals that her wish was to see Gyo-sik again. She recalls Gyo-sik saying that his wish had also come true. Thinking about it, Ji-tai suggests that Gyo-sik may have wished to see his late wife. The pieces slowly begin falling into place. Suin realizes that the stone towers don't grant ordinary wishes. Instead, they seem to bring back the dead. That would explain why none of the other wishes came true. It would also explain the old woman's behavior. Since her daughter died in the reservoir, she built stone towers so she could keep seeing her. Suin says they need to destroy the stone tower. She asks Songbin where the tower Gyo-sik built is located. After everything they've been through, he's terrified of being lured back into the darkness. Suin insists that he stay behind while she handles it, but her decision only frustrates him further. Ji-tai steps in and calms everyone down. Noticing that Sejong has started coughing, Ji-tai and Suin step out of the car to look for something to drink. While Ji-tai searches through their supplies, Suin quietly starts walking away. He immediately stops her. Ji-tai asks why she isn't asking him to come with her. Back inside the vehicle, Sejong reveals something she lied earlier, and that she did make a wish. She admits that she wished to see a real ghost at least once. Songbin tells her it doesn't matter anymore. All that matters is getting out alive. He says they should abandon Suin and Ji-tai and leave on their own. According to him, Suin was the one who brought them there in the first place. After everything that's happened, he even suspects she might be a ghost herself. He points out that she kept stopping them whenever they tried to leave. Sejong tries defending Suin and argues that they should at least wait until sunrise. In response, Songbin shows her the clock. The time hasn't changed at all. It's still stuck at 1:30. Meanwhile, Ji-tai decides to accompany Suin. They suddenly hear a vehicle starting up behind them. Turning around, they see the others driving away. Inside the car, Songbin follows the GPS, then the windshield wipers suddenly activate on their own. No matter what they do, they won't stop. The strange behavior forces Songbin to pull over. Moments later, a metallic noise echoes from somewhere nearby. Both of them cautiously look around. Without warning, the ghost suddenly appears. Terrified, Songbin slams on the accelerator and speeds away. After a frantic drive, they finally reach what appears to be a main road. Relieved, both of them smile and hug each other. Then someone knocks on the window. They turn and see a police officer standing outside. Immediately, they relax. The officer calmly asks if they have jumper cables. Songbin says they have it, and agrees to help. While he steps out to connect the cables, the officer begins speaking with Sejong. He casually asks when they arrived at the reservoir. Then he asks how many people were there. The moment Sejong hears those questions, her face changes. They're the exact same questions the voice asked through the radio. Slowly, she looks up at the officer. His eyes are completely red. Panic immediately takes over. At the same time, Songbin finishes connecting the cables and starts the vehicle. To his shock, instead of being on a road, he's parked right in front of the reservoir. He stares ahead in disbelief. Then he slowly turns toward the passenger seat. The sight leaves him speechless. Trying not to panic, he reaches for the door handle. But the door won't open. As he looks beside him again, he finds the ghost sitting there, staring directly at him. Meanwhile, Suin and Ji-tai continue toward another part of the reservoir. While searching the area, Suin comes across Gyo-tai's body once again. Nearby, she also finds Sejong's tablet, which still contains the memory card recovered earlier. After checking the files, she discovers information that reveals the location of Gyo-sik's boat. Unfortunately, reaching it will require crossing the water. Before they can move, the radio suddenly comes to life. A terrified Sejong's voice comes through the speaker, desperately calling for Suin's help. Moments later, her scream echoes through the radio. Hearing this, Suin and Ji-tai immediately rush toward the source. When they arrive, the area appears completely empty. There is no sign of Sejong or Songbin. Confused, Suin speaks into the radio. And hears the radio sound coming from beneath the car. She carefully crouches down and looks underneath. To her shock, Sejong is trapped there. Suin quickly reaches in and tries to pull her out. However, before she can, Ji-tai notices something horrifying. Songbin is sitting in the driver's seat. Sejong's eyes suddenly turn red. Suddenly, the car lunges forward. Ji-tai manages to pull Suin out of the way just in time. Songbin repeatedly drives it back and forth, turning the vehicle into a weapon. The horrifying assault continues until Sejong finally stops moving. Moments later, Songbin falls from the vehicle. As Suin and Ji-tai stare in horror, his head slowly twists toward them at an unnatural angle. Suin and Ji-tai run for their lives. Behind them, the blood from both Sejong and Songbin slowly flows across the ground and makes its way toward the reservoir. Elsewhere, Suin and Ji-tai prepare a small raft so they can reach the stone tower connected to Gyo-sik. Although she's terrified of water, Suin grabs Ji-tai's hand before stepping onto the raft. Together, they slowly paddle across the dark reservoir. As they move through the water, Suin thanks him for staying with her and coming this far. Suddenly, something catches her attention. She looks at Jiaitai and asks how he knew where the raft was located. Jiaitai doesn't answer. Instead, he keeps rowing in silence. Then he suddenly stops. A moment later, he's no longer Jiaitai. Standing before her is Gyosik. Gyosik tells her that he died there. For 5 long minutes, he struggled in the water before finally drowning. Earlier that morning, he had received a call informing him that his assignment had been changed to Salmokji. According to him, Suin was originally supposed to take that assignment. He then asks a chilling question. Was she the one who changed it? Suin immediately breaks down and apologizes. She insists that she never imagined something like this would happen. Calling her a liar, he says she had already visited the reservoir once before. When things went wrong, she abandoned the project and ran away. Shaken, Suin asks how he could possibly know that. Just then, she hears Jiaitai's voice calling out to her from somewhere. Gyosik suddenly moves closer. He coldly tells her that everything would have been over if she had died instead. Then he says it's not too late. All she has to do is bring Jiaitai with her. She says the real Gyosik would never say something like that. The moment she says it, the apparition disappears. Strange sounds begin coming from every direction. Panicking, Suin reaches for the paddle. In the water, a ghostly hand suddenly grabs her hand and pulls her inside water. Not far away, Jiaitai hears the splash and without hesitation dives into the water. He swims and reaches the raft, but Suin is nowhere to be seen. As dives towards the bottom, and discovers countless bodies resting at the bottom of the reservoir. Among them, he spots Suin. She's completely motionless, with her legs trapped deep in the sand. Jiaitai desperately pulls her free. Something grabs his leg from below. Suin emerges from the water and drags herself onto the shore. Tears begin streaming down her face, as she collapses on the ground crying. After gathering herself, she forces her body forward and heads toward the stone tower she has been searching for. When she finally reaches it, she places her hand on the stones and immediately starts tearing the tower apart. Halfway through, she notices a ghostly figure hidden within it. Suddenly, it begins pulling her inside the tower. While struggling against it, she notices a thread tied around the structure. She manages to break it. The sand inside the ritual bowl instantly turns black before the bowl falls to the ground. Even so, the force continues dragging her inside the tower. At that exact moment, Jiaitai finally breaks free and desperately swims back to shore. He rushes toward the stone tower. When he arrives, he finds Suin sitting nearby, completely lifeless and exhausted. Relieved to see her alive, he embraces her and tells her that it's over. Later, we see the director telling Jiaitai that Gyosik actually dies at the reservoir and not the hospital. The director tried contacting Suin several times afterward, but none of his calls went through. Concerned, Jiaitai tries to reach her himself. To his surprise, he suddenly spotted Suin at the studio. He walks over and asks what she was doing there. Suin casually replies that she was only get a cup of coffee for work. Seeing the worried look on his face, she asked if something was wrong. Jiaitai says it's nothing. A moment later, Suin headed off to make coffee for him. Jiaitai sits quietly, he wonders if Gyosik was trying to destroy the stone tower all along. If that was the case, then why did he die before he could finish it? Suddenly, water begins flowing across the floor and reaches Jiaitai's feet. Slowly, Jiaitai turns to look at Suin. But the room is completely empty. In an instant, he finds himself back at the reservoir, unable to understand what's happening. Confused and terrified, he looks toward the water. A figure slowly appears beneath the surface. As it rises closer, the truth is finally revealed. The ghost haunting Salmokji was Suin all along. The movie ends with the horrifying implication that Suin had already become part of the reservoir's curse,